Hi everyone, Bandanner here. I hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to a preview of the upcoming Northag Expansion DLC for WARNO. The DLC will include 2 new Army General campaigns, 4 new operations and 10 new divisions. However, there are also 2 new maps coming with the DLC which will be available to everybody who owns the game, not just the DLC purchasers, and 2 new mechanics coming to the game. An old piece of technology that has finally found its way into the game from Wargame Red Dragon, that is setting how you want your supply. Being able to split it between ammunition, fuel and spare parts, and turning off any of them you wish, and any of them on you wish. So finally you can rearm and repair your vehicles without needing to refuel them as well. And the other new addition to the game is Stress on Miss for anti-air missiles, which I'm going to demonstrate here. The AI kindly providing an aircraft for me to shoot at. This is a long requested feature to make anti-air a little bit more potent, while not necessarily allowing them to just kill the aircraft. So this will scare aircraft off the map eventually. You'll notice that that misses, but he takes a little bit of stress. And as this continues round, they'll get a lock on again, and this will go up. It just needs to get a little bit closer. Well, this will apply to helicopters, it will apply to aircraft. Obviously, if there are lots of aircraft together, or helicopters together in a group, then, you know, all those missiles will have an effect on all the units. And there you go. Enough to stress the jet out, and it has left the map. So let's start by having a look through these divisions. NATO first, then Pact, no particular reason other than I've just started on the 16th Panzer Division, which is one of the new Belgian divisions. So here you can see we've got a reasonable logistics tab for this, plenty of supply, 2 cards of each available, plus plenty of commands, including a forward deployable command. Infantry tab, well, there's quite a lot here. The only real shame is that it doesn't get any really good anti-tank in terms of the close range anti-tank. The best it gets are the blinder side RL-83s, which at least they have 6 ammo, but penetration is only 14, so they're a little bit more limited there. They do, of course, get Milan 2s though. One of the nice things they do get somewhere in here, there it is, the AIFV BC-23. So this is an infantry fighting vehicle with an autocannon, really nice autocannon. It's basically a Bushmaster 2. However, it's got 50% more ammo because it has 300 rounds instead of 200. So quite a nice piece of kit, but no missiles on there like the Bradley. So Bradley is obviously a bit better off. Artillery tab. Nothing too exciting here, pretty standard stuff. Mortars, tube artillery, the usual. Tank tab, not the most exciting tab in terms of tanks. You've got Leopard 1A5s and you've got Leopard 1s, obviously with a slight variation there. You've got some Jagdpanzers in here as well. I suppose the nice thing is you get multiple cards of ATGM vehicles, and obviously you get the TOW 2 Humvee and the Milan 2 Iltis, which both have good stealth. The Striker, only mediocre, but does have plenty of swing fires. Recon, loads of choice. I suppose the things to look out for here are the ASR GVP, which do come with the GSR. It has a little drone, but I've not really found a great use for the drones personally. And you do get an exceptional vehicle there, as well as the Scorpions and Scimitars. Anti-air tab, pretty basic. So you got the Mistral, which is quite a nice man-pad team to have in there, and you get the Gepard in there as well. Otherwise, very mediocre. Helicopter tab, quite limited. 2 helicopters. It's basically the same helicopter twice, except the second time round you get 8 missiles instead of 4. And obviously you only get 3 per card. Air tab, so you don't have any long-range anti-air here. You've got the F-16AA, which is your shotgun aircraft, as it were, with 2 short-range AIM-9Ps. Other than that, you've got other jets with AIM-9Ps, but unfortunately nothing long-range. So air tab not great, and you don't get any seed in there either, so you won't be operating them too far behind enemy lines, I guess. Let's move on to the next division. So, the 4E Divisie, which is the new Dutch division. Limited in the logistics tab, I guess, but there is actually a lot here in terms of cards, because you get 2 cards of each of the supply again, and you also get 3 cards of the command here if that's your thing. Unfortunately, no commands with 3 available on the card. Infantry tab, quite limited. However, you do get the lovely YPR 768 PRI, which has that autocannon again. And that comes with all of these, so the Dragons, the Panzer Infantry, and also the low variant as well, get that as a vehicle. So you've got plenty here to be going on with, but nothing too stand out in the grand scheme of things. Artillery tab, again, we're going back to the basics. We've got mortars, we've got 155mm, we've got the M109, which is 155, and then we've got the M110, which is 203. So again, nothing special there, but, you know, 3 1-point activation slots, so you can take a bit with you. Tank tab, this is perhaps where this division shines in some respects. You've got the Leopard 1NL, which is quite nice and cheap for when you're just wanting a little bit of spam. You do have access to the PRAT, which has the TOW 2. Obviously, not the best in terms of the ATGM carriers that are available to NATO, but it's still not bad. It does have a lot of missiles available. It's just got mediocre stealth. That's the sort of letdown for it. However, you do get quite a lot of Leopard 2A4s. You've got the 2A4C here, which has a little bit of extra front armor, and then you drop down with the B. But this is probably the better part of this deck, is that you do have some really meaty tanks. Recon, plenty to choose from. Well, not as much as some decks, but there's still plenty to choose from. Important ones here being the KCT Vekinas, which have that GSR again. Anti-air tab, once more, bit limited of the 2 we've seen so far. Bofors, you do get plenty of the Stinger. 5 cards of Stinger! And 2 of the Cheetah, which is basically a Gepard, right? But 5 cards of Stinger seems excessive. But they're there, anyway. Air tab, well, we're going back to this issue of getting just those shotgun F-16s for anti-air, and the NF, which also just has AIM-9Ps. So you've not got any long-range AA in this deck, and again, you don't have any seed, so you're not going to be ruling the skies. A little bit limited. You do get HE bombers and the rocket. Rockets aren't doing it for me recently. Definitely preferring to go with one of the HE ones here. Okay, well, let's move on to the next division. 4th Armoured Division, or the pie chart division for the British. Now, this division is, I feel, would be very good in a team game. I struggle to find a good position for it in 1v1, and I think some of the pro players would definitely agree. You get plenty in this tab here in terms of your command, and you do get multiple cards of supply, but the smallest supply you get is the FV432 cargo with 1,000, which means that you don't really have the ability to spam small ones out and about the place, which is a bit of a shame, but it is what it is. Infantry tab, well, in terms of the infantry, you've got a good spread. However, it doesn't get any IFVs. So you get the Milans, you've got the Mott rifles, you've got the standard rifles with the Law 80, which is very nice. The Terriers are in there, plenty of those. Assault Pioneers with Carl Gustaf, so you have plenty of options in that regard. Just nothing too exciting beyond that. You're pretty much stuck with the Saxons and, well, the Scat for some fire support. Artillery tab, nothing too special here either. You've got a couple of mortars, you've got the 155mm stuff, obviously. You've also got the Abbott 105mm and the M107 175mm. Tank tab is probably, in one sense, a strength of this deck, and in another sense, a bit of a weakness. So it's all very mediocre. You've got the Centurions up here, and the Centurion Mark V, very effective against infantry. And then you've got Chieftains. Loads and loads of Chieftains. The Chieftain Mark 6/2 being the cheapest of the set there. And you do get a lot of tanks, but they are damn slow because they are British tanks. So they take a while to get the front lines. do obviously get the Striker and the Swingfire as well, but only one card of each, so while you can somewhat rely on ATGMs, it's not going to be perfect. Recon, plenty of choices. You've got the Ferret, the Fox, you've got the Spartan with the exceptional optics, you've got the Scorpion, the Scimitar, and a mixture therein. What you don't have is a GSR, obviously. Something to bear in mind. Anti-air tab. This is not a bad tab for this division either. You've got the Javelins, the Javelin LML, the Rapier FSA, and the Rapier Darkfire, which is new with the DLC. And this just has a longer range. If you'll notice, the aircraft range is 3,875. So that's quite nice. And the Tracked Rapier as well, obviously. Helicopter tab, Hellarm and Hellarm, with the TOW or the ITOW. Air tab, at least here you do get some long-range anti-air missiles, though your AA isn't too bad because of that Darkfire, but it is nice to have a Skyflash. The other thing to note is that the Phantom also gets Skyflash. Regardless of whatever loadout it has, it also gets some Skyflash missiles, so you do have plenty of long-range capability. Okay, next division. Okay, the Multinational Airborne Division. It's a mixture of everything. There's a lot of Belgian stuff in here, funnily enough. Some German stuff, some British stuff. You know the drill. So, quite a wide selection of supply in here. Obviously, no supply point because it's airborne. And a lot of commands. Cards with 3 on and cards with 2 on that are forward deployable. Infantry, there is a wide selection of mostly forward deployable troops. Please note, though, there are no IFVs in here. The best thing you probably get would be the Gurkhas, in my opinion. Of course, I would say that I'm British, but you know, there's plenty of choices in terms of your infantry. Artillery is mediocre at best, if even that. You get a lot of forward deployable mortars, as you can see, so if you want some mortar spam, well, you've got it. Your actual artillery pieces are 105mm only, so nothing too exciting. Tank tab, there are no tanks. Let's get that out of the way right now. You get Scorpions, you get Scimitars, you get Weasels with an autocannon. None of these are really tanks. Let's move on straight away. TOW 2, TOW, Striker, and the Milan. There's a load of ATGM vehicles in here. That's going to be your mainstay, and everything else is just going to be there to try and do some damage or push, I guess. Recon tab. Again, lots of selection here, and plenty of forward deployable stuff because it's an airborne division. But nothing overly exciting. You do at least get the LSV Milan, which is quite tasty. It's always nice to have a recon unit that also has ATGMs. Other than that, it's your pretty standard stuff. Pathfinders, Parascouts, you know. You don't get any GSR though, again. The AA tab. Not horrendous, a weird mix, I would say. The Javelin's in there, the Mistral's in there, which is great. You've got the Darkfire again, which is obviously very nice with that 3,875 meter range. Other than that, I mean, there's nothing that's going to jump out too much, but at least there's a few different options. Helicopter tab, Hellarms, or the PAR 1 or the PAR 1A1. I mean, it's all ATGM stuff, right? Air tab, this is where your Buccaneers come in. So, you get the F4F, which has the AIM-9Ls. You get the F-16 AA2, which has the AIM-9Ls. So, once again, you're getting short-range shotgun fighters. The Buccaneers come in a variety. At least you get Seed here, and you get a laser-guided bomber, and you get anti-tank. So, Buccaneers, probably quite helpful in this division. However, you know, I feel, again, this one's probably going to be better in team games when you're being backed up by someone with heavy vehicles or tanks and, you know, IFVs later in the game. Okay, let's move on. Okay, US 9th Infantry Division Motorized. So this one has the Cook vehicles in, which are basically technicals. Just little trucks. Anyhow, good amount of supply, good amount of options when it comes to command as well, though nothing with 3 on a card. Infantry, you get a lot of different infantry here. Its main weakness is it doesn't have any good anti-tank in terms of close range anti-tank for forests. It's all laws. The best law you get is obviously the 13 pen one. You do get plenty of Dragon 2s. Unfortunately, the Dragon 2s have a minimum range, so there is a bit of a weakness there. You also don't get any IFVs once more in this division. Otherwise, you get a reasonable selection of stuff. Artillery tab isn't bad. It's got quite a nice selection, though the slots are getting quite expensive here, considering it seems to have a lot of choice. You got the MLRS cluster, which is probably one of the most important things you can have in this division. Then you've got the usual array of M109s, the 155mm, this one being the special one that has targeted munitions, so they're guided. You do get the M60 mine clearing vehicle there as well, and you know, the usual mortars and things. Tank tab, well, nothing too exciting here. You've got the M60s and you've got quite a selection of ATGMs, the best one being this with the Hellfires. Unfortunately, you only get one card and there's only 3 of them. Recon tab, plenty of choices. You've got these lovely FAV vehicles there, including one with a TOW 2, a selection of helicopters. You've got the Aquila drone there. You've also got the CEWI, which have the SIG-INT capability, and Fault, which have the GSR. Then we've got the anti-air tab, which is a little bit limited in your range once more. You've got the Stingers in there from both the National Guard and the Standards. You've got the Chaparral that's, you know, dragged around on a truck, and it's, you know, still pretty reasonable. And then you've got the Avenger. Helicopter tab, Hogs, Cobras. What more can you say? Air tab, at least you have some long-range anti-air capability here with the F-15C Eagle AA2. It's got those Sparrows on there. You also do get access to the shotgun F-16 again with the AIM-9s. And then you've got a lot of F-16s in Seed, Cluster, HE, and 2 HE rolls to be fair. You also get the FA-16, which has Mavericks for some more anti-tank capability. And realistically, considering you don't really get anything but the M60s, you're going to be relying on things like that aircraft and also the cluster artillery to do damage to enemy vehicles. Moving on to the next division. So we are now moving on to Pact. This is the 25th Tank Division. I really like this division because it's got the T-64 basically. In terms of your supply, there's plenty here. You do get 2 cards of the larger truck, if that's your thing. No very small ones here, though, again. So I would definitely be taking the Ural, so at least I feel like if I lose it, I'm not losing quite as much as if I had that. Commands, reasonable choice here. I quite like the BMP 1K3 because I get 3 of them on a card. Infantry, reasonable selection here. So you've got Conkers in there, you've got the usual Sapri, you get the Mostrelki there with the BMP2, which is quite nice, and you can have 3 cards of those. You don't have a lot of activation cards here, not a lot of slots at all, so I end up taking quite a lot of IFVs, to be honest. Artillery tab, you've got some mortars, you've got the usual array, including the MSTAS, which is new obviously, and this is just a much better version of the 2S3M basically. Got the Grad in there as well, and of course you have the 2S5 if you're wanting something a little bit different. Decent options when it comes to artillery. Tank tab, probably one of my favorite tank tabs just because I love the T-64. So you've got a cheap T-64, well, if you can call it cheap, the A OBR 83. Then you've got the standard T-64Bs in a variety of options, including non-missile. And then you have the BVs with the same, and obviously the B1s are specific to this division. Recon tab, not a huge selection, but enough. So you do get a T-64 recon tank, which is very nice. I do like when you get a recon tank. Get the Schmel in there, which I'm not too fussy about. The Mi-24K, always nice to see that knocking around. Once again, though, in terms of your infantry, you do not get any GSR, and you'll be relying on the BRM-1 if you want exceptional optics. Anti-air tab, you've got the Igla, the Berusa, the Strela 10M, and the Cubs, so pretty nice in terms of your anti-air to go along with those tanks and provide some protection. Helicopter tab, loads of options. I mean, I'd consider this a pretty reasonable division in what's available. And then the air tab, again, you've got a reasonable amount of stuff here. You've got 2 cards of the MiG-29 and 2 cards of the Su-27S. So you have a lot of anti-air capability. You also have seed capability. And then, other than that, you're down to the Su-25s. But in a team game, if you're rocking these cards here, you're going to be providing a lot of support to your allies using bombers. Though, you can't go wrong with the Su-25AT, right? Okay, on to the East Germans with the 9th Panzer Division. So, supply here a little bit limited in that you kind of switch straight up to 3,000 supply trucks, which you don't want to get really too near the front line, do you? Good command options here, though, with 3 per card. Infantry tab, a little bit limited in choice, but good choices available. You've got 2 cards of the Mordschützen with the RPG-27, and they can come in the BMP-2. And then you've got 4 cards of standard Mordschützen with the 18-pen launcher still, and lots of BMP-1 options. Artillery is quite nice in that you get the RM-70 and the new RM-70 Napalm variant. So they're probably going to be quite nasty. But if you're taking those, you may want the supply depot. Tank tab, I hate the T-72, but I know some people love it. You get some options for ATGMs, and then you're straight onto the T-72s. There's a few different variants here that you don't necessarily see elsewhere, obviously. And, of course, you get the Resolute trait, this being the East Germans. The T-72S being the nicest one here, though none of them have the range of the Wilk that is available to the Polish. Recon tab, not a lot of choice. Once again, as we've seen in a few divisions, you don't get any GSR, so you're going to be relying on the BRM-1 for that exceptional optics. AA tab, this isn't too bad. You get the Strela, you get the Igla, you get a Shilka, you get the Strela 10M, and of course you get Cubs, and you get 2 cards of the Cubs, so at least you have some long-range stuff there. Helicopter tab, nothing to write home about, but you know, the Mi-24P is pretty darn good, so can't complain either, and the Mi-24D is okay as well. Air tab, reasonable mix in that you've got plenty of anti-air, you don't have any seed, and you have a decent anti-tank. HE and cluster and rocket are available as well. Okay, moving on to the Polish stuff, which is new. So the first up is the 4th Zmech. In terms of supply, not a huge amount of choices, but at least you get something with a small amount of supply that you can spread about the front line, and plenty of decent commands. Infantry, plenty of choices. You've got something that covers all bases, and you do get access to the BMP-1, or BWP-1 in this case. Artillery tab, not terrible, not amazing. Plenty of the usual available with some mortars, 152mm, but you also get the Grad and the WZ-70, which is the equivalent of the RM-70, right? Tank tab, this one's a little bit more limited because you're limited to T-55s. You've got plenty of ATGM carriers, though, if that's your thing. You also have access to the cannons, which they can come in handy. I wouldn't say they're my favourite unit these days. Then it's just T-55s. You do get the Meridia variants, which, you know, aren't terrible, but they're T-55s at the end of the day, aren't they? They're not the most amazing tanks in the game, but I'm sure someone will do amazing things with this deck. Recon tab, reasonable amount of options. You've got these guys down at the bottom, Special Forces Squad. But unfortunately, once again, as we've seen in another couple of divisions, no GSR in there. So when you do want to get exceptional optics, you're going back to the ground vehicles, effectively. Anti-air tab, it looks like there's a lot of options. There's probably some stuff you just wouldn't take here though. Strela as your manpad option, you've got the Strela 1M and you've got the OSA in there being your longest range AA. And everything in between is if you fancy it, I suppose. Helicopter tab, decent amount of options here. Obviously you're looking at these Mi-24s because, well, they're the usual suspects, I guess. You do get the Salamander and stuff, but I just think they look weird. Air tab, not a lot of choice. But you do get the MiG-23 and the other. I mean, it's this one you're going to take because it's got the longer range missile. This one is short range only. You got a cluster in there, you got AT and you got HE. No seed. Next up, Polish Circle Division, or their 20th Tank Division effectively. So, again, not a huge amount of supply options, but at least you do also get a helicopter option in this one and 2 cards of each of the others. Some commands in there, at least you get a 3-stack of the BWP-1. Infantry, not a lot of choice again, but everything you probably need is covered. You got the Zmech guys here, which come with the BMP-1 or BMP-2, and you get plenty of cards of these, so you can bring plenty of IFVs. Artillery tab, not terrible. You get a Grad in there, you get the Bandanner in there. Obviously, it's a faster 152mm. Tank tab, maybe it's the time that I find a T-72 I can get on with, because the Wilk is in here, which actually has the full range of tanks in the game. Not a lot of ATGM carriers here, just 2 cards of the Malyukta P, but then you've got T-55s available, so you can get a little bit spammy, and then a lot of T-72 variants. Recon tab, not too bad. You do have a GSR option here. Happy days, we like the GSR. You get the Special Forces guys again, and you've got a good selection up here, including with the option of bringing in Recon BMP-1s as well. Anti-air tab, I don't think this is a bad tab either. Strela is the manpad option, which is a bit of a shame. We do prefer the Igla. I wouldn't really be going for these towed guns, but you do get a nice self-propelled gun there. You get the Strela 10M and you also get the Cub. So you've got plenty of options there. 2 cards of the Cub again. Helicopter tab, well, Salamander's going to get ignored, but you do get access to the Mi-24s again. Aircraft tab, okay, a little bit more limited here. We've got the MiG-21 or the MiG-21. Obviously, we do get to go with the whole shotgun effect because it's got multiple missiles, but unfortunately, nothing long range. You're going to be relying on your ground Cubs to deal with air threats. No seed here either, but you do get the Sierra 30 anti-tank there with the KH-29T. Last but not least, the Korpus Desant. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong still. This is the boat division. It's got boats in it, look. Literally, it's a boat, right? Anyhow, a few supply choices, nothing that probably stands out too much, but you got plenty of boat options for supply. And then a few command options as well. Infantry tab, you've got plenty of forward deployable stuff here. You don't get access to any IFVs, however, so bear that in mind. But at least you can do some forward deployment. And there's, as I say, a lot of options. Artillery tab, well, you know, there's a few different options here. Nothing to stand out. You do get the Pivonoa. The V's, the W is like a V in Polish, I assume, a bit like German. 203mm howitzer, and that's unique to this division, obviously. Tank tab, nothing too exciting here, really, is there? You've got some PT-76s, you've got the ASU-85, and then you've got some T-55s. And at least you get some ATGM carriers as well. Again, I feel it's quite limited in this section. Recon, not a huge amount of choice, but you do get access to a GSR unit with a Special Forces squad down at the bottom. Anti-air tab is... I think that's the best way to describe it. You get Strelas, you get forward deployable Strelas, and you get mediocre guns. Don't get me wrong, the Hibernati thing isn't terrible, but it's not a Gepard, right? Helicopter tab, once again, you've got the Sokols in there, which are unique to this division, which, you know, they're not terrible for the price, but again, you've got plenty of Mi-24s in there as well. Air tab, well, what can you say? You do get access to the MiG-29 AA-1, which has at least long-range anti-air missiles. You do get SEED, you get AT, you get cluster, you get napalm. You're just missing a HE bomber, really. But I think what's there is enough to be getting on with. Certainly, for me, the big things you're going to want are clusters and anti-tank and SEED, because, well, your tank tab isn't great in this division. And that's all the divisions. Let us move on to having a look at something else. There will also be 2 new Army General campaigns, obviously coming with this new expansion. So, Northag 4 Days to Weser, which is set in that area there on the map. Here you'll be playing as either sort of a mixture of forces, the Dutch, Belgians and Americans, or you'll be playing as East Germans with some Soviet tank support. The other one, Armoured Fury, obviously a little bit further down near Hanover, more focusing on the British. You'll get a selection of British forces from 1st Armoured, 4th Armoured, 2nd Infantry, 2nd Allied Tactical Air Force, and also some Panzer Division from the West Germans, facing off against a load of Soviet tank divisions. Then, of course, there are 4 new operations, which are a massive step above the previous operations, and in particular, Survivors is a step up again. So I do recommend giving them a go, and I'll be putting up playthroughs of them up on my other channel. Now, the Running the Gauntlet, I'm just going to click on them one by one. Running the Gauntlet, you're basically playing as NATO forces, and you're trying to get to some trapped West German forces and protect a convoy. So a few different things going on there. Winged Hussars will see you playing as the Polish, having to get past British forces that have got behind your lines with some nasty equipment. You'll first have to get back to your main force so you can call in reinforcements, and then either defend and hold or try and take more areas from the British. Then you have Marauders. This one sees the British going in to try and take some territory and link up with forces already in the area and help defend them. You can also take an additional point and get access to some West German reinforcements. Survivors is exactly what it says on the tin. You are the survivors. A small British force. You're going to try and get back to your main forces across a river. Between you and those forces are a shed load of Soviet troops. You'll be having to be fairly stealthy here to avoid the bulk of those Russian forces, and you'll be attempting to save some other Allied units on the way who have been trapped behind enemy lines. It is, of course, your choice how you approach this mission. Do you save everybody, or do you just make a beeline to the exit? I played this one very slowly and didn't lose many units at all. There's the challenge on this one, not losing anything. Last but not least, I thought we'd have a look at the 2 new maps coming with Northag, which were made available to everybody, obviously. They are Valley, which is this one here. Got a river at that side, a little bit of river over here, and it's a pretty big open map. It's quite fun to play. As you can see, you've kind of got 3 points each at the back, and then you're fighting over these 1-pointers in the middle, though there's certainly nothing to stop you going for the back points as well at this area of the map. Obviously, there's a lot of trees, and getting into Echo shouldn't be too difficult. Equally at this side, you could go this way to get into Delta. So a few different options for squeezing around the back, or you could try for just a pile drive through the center to control these points and perhaps even push further on either side. Pretty straightforward map, mostly open spaces with some tree lines and buildings. The second of the new maps is Factory. We've obviously already had previews for this in the past, but you can see there are a couple of points at the sides and then at the back here, which make for some backline play possibility, which they're a little bit more detached, Mike and Oscar, for example, from the main route. Alpha also off to the side there. Otherwise, a lot of fighting is obviously going to take place in the center, and there's certainly going to be a bit of meat grinding in the middle here for the actual factory area, where it's building to building, fighting to the extreme. Going to be some artillery spam going on here at some point, I'm sure. And that's everything coming with Northag. As I say, I didn't want to go into too much detail or spend too much time on everything, or we'll end up with a 3-hour-long video, and I just don't think we need to do that. So thank you very much for watching. If you're planning to pick up Northag, I do, as I say, highly recommend checking out the new operations in particular. They were very impressive, but I hope you all enjoy what Eugen have created. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all soon.